Hey guys, my heart was ripped into absolute pieces, into absolute 1,000,005 shreds. And this is one video I hope you don't click on. This is one video I hope you or someone you know absolutely does not relate to. But if you do happen to relate to it, I'm going to give you my thoughts from perspective of a dad as a perspective from a father. Because from the perspective of a dad, there are very limited resources. And even for ladies, there's very limited resources on going through this. And what I'm talking about and what this is miscarriage. And again, this is absolutely devastating to any family. It's devastating to any person. And I want to be a voice of reasoning. I want to be a voice so you don't feel alone. I want to be a voice to where you have understanding of what someone you know is going through as a male. I can't speak to the female side. I will leave a resource in the bottom of the description for females. But as from the male perspective, this is my story and this is how I've been able to get through it. And these are the thoughts that I had. These are the doubts, all those things. So buckle in. I'm going to be as open and as honest as possible, just so you can have an understanding of what someone is going through as well. So it starts off like this. And basically what happened was my wife and I, we've been dating since sophomore year of high school. And when you are high school sweethearts, you get a special kind of bond. And we spent years talking about what it'll be like to build a family. We spent years talking about, man, this is going to be incredible when we can get married, when we can have kids, all those things. Well, the day finally came. We got married. It was absolutely incredible. A few months in, we were like, all right, it's game time. We're ready for children. And we initially thought, like, because you're told your whole life, don't have sex before marriage, or don't get a girl pregnant and all these things. And we think in our minds that it's incredibly easy to get pregnant, right? It's actually kind of difficult to get pregnant. There's so many things that have to line up perfectly for that to happen. Well, it took us a year to get pregnant. And if you can imagine a whole year process of trying and trying and trying, you get discouraged. You just get to a place to where, man, like, is this ever going to happen? Well, one day it finally happened. We got pregnant. And my wife called me, my wife came and got me. She spoke to me and we celebrated. We were overjoyed. We were ecstatic. We started dreaming like, okay, is it a boy or a girl? What are the names? And we had names picked out since high school. So it was finally coming to happen. It was finally coming to fruition. But her first appointment came. And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I got to go to work and I got to make sure that everything is all good for when this kid arrives. I'm going to work harder, things of that nature. So she goes to her first appointment, super excited, and me the same, having no idea what to expect. And all of a sudden I get a call on my way into work and I'm just expecting her to say, hey, everything's good. Yada, yada, yada. But to my surprise, she calls and her voice is shaking. Her voice is unsure, confused. Before she even said more than hello or hi, I could, you know how you know your spouse that way. And I heard her voice and I was like, wait a minute, this isn't excitement anymore. This is fear. So she began to speak and then she unveiled that her levels, HGC or HCG levels, I can't remember what they're called, but the hormone that describes the amount of hormones that your body's producing out for the pregnancy, her levels were dropping. And for those of you who don't know, when your levels drop, that means most likely the pregnancy won't be viable. And so she's explaining this to me over the phone. She's already in tears. And she basically ends with, she doesn't think our baby is gonna be able to make it. And this is about 6 to 8 weeks into the pregnancy when your first appointment happens. So I get this news. I instantly start crying. I instantly break down. I hang up the phone so she doesn't hear me crying. And she is on the other end bawling. And yes, I'm losing it. I can't go into work. My boss sees me. I'm in tears. And it's absolutely terrible. And the first thing that I'm thinking is, does this ever happen? How did this happen? And does this ever happen to anyone else? And I'm immediately like stricken with this reality of, man, life ain't all sunshine and rainbows. Life is incredibly difficult and it throws wrenches in it to where you're least expecting it. And especially as a father, I'm thinking in my mind, man, how dare I not be there for her in this moment, first of all? And how can I be ignorant to the fact that these things happen? And how is it possible that this happened to us? And all these thoughts were flooding into my mind. And I immediately, after I had my moment of tears, I immediately was thinking, okay, how can I be strong for my wife? How can I be strong for her? And the moment we saw each other after my workday was over, I worked an hour away at this point. So after the workday was over, I immediately go home, and we just hugged, and we kind of sat in silence for a while. And the reason we sat in silence is not because we had anything to say, but because we had so much to say, we both didn't know where to start other than tears. And watching her face of sadness when I walked into the door was absolutely crushing. And even to this moment, that eye exchange will never leave my mind, of the amount of sadness I saw in her face. And up until this point, I've never seen her this sad. And we both just kind of sat there, and then we finally opened our mouths and started talking and say, okay, what are our options? How do we proceed? Like, what do we do? No matter what was being said, I was in my own head, just constantly thinking, what in the world is happening and why? What is happening and why? No matter what was being said, I could not get that out of my mind. And for those of you who may not know me, I'm a huge person of faith. And my first question and my first thought was, God, how did you let this happen? Right? I loved God. I loved Jesus with all of my heart. I still do love him with all of my heart. But this was a moment in a crisis to where I was like, man, I thought we were tight. I thought we were good. Like, how could you not be protecting me in these moments? How could you not protect her? How could you not protect my baby? And in all honesty, that was one of those moments where I was like, man, I have a hard time now trusting you, Lord. And because of that started creating just like a heart of bitterness within myself. And that took a while to be able to break and to learn how to trust again. And if you're going through this, or you're person that you know is going through this, it's okay for them to start to question everything. It's okay for them to go through that. It's absolutely normal, because the fabric of reality and the fabric of your faith is immediately put through the fire there. And going through waves of up and down of what that looks like to that person, what that looks like to you will be different for everyone. And another thing that kind of struck me by surprise was, wait a minute, this baby is 6 weeks old within you. It doesn't just disappear out of your body. Like, how in the world does this process even take place? And not to get like gruesome or to go to that level, but you do. Like I said, I was going to be honest with you guys. I'm like, wait a minute. The baby just can't disappear out of you. What is this? What happens? And as you start to educate yourself, you realize it's an absolutely not a rated triple R version of what you will ever think this process looks like. They give you options of basically like, here's a pill that you can take to make the baby come out. Here's a surgery that we can go in and essentially suck everything away. And it's just like, oh my goodness, what are you doing, one, to my baby, and what are you doing to my wife? And I was so frustrated with the whole process. And the first thing another thing that I thought was, why hasn't anyone ever told me about these things? Why hasn't anyone ever spoken up about, hey, these are the possibilities? Or, hey, have you ever thought about what happens if this? Or in health class, hey, 1 in 4 pregnancies don't work out. So when you try to have kids, don't be surprised if X happens. And I immediately was just so frustrated with the world around me that why is this kept secret? And I understand it's a tough topic, but man, you would think that someone around you would prepare you, say, hey, these are the possibilities. Here's the possible outcomes, and be prepared. Here's how you can be prepared for these situations. Here's what they can possibly offer you. And no, I got none of that. Absolutely zero. Not from any family member, not from a friend, nothing. And that absolutely frustrated me to the zenith, to the point of where I was ready to explode and like fight. I'm not a violent person, but I was ready to fight. And I was like, there's gotta be something somewhere. And I quickly realized, like, man, this is an epidemic that so many people are going through, but so many people are silent about. And that was one of those things that kind of made me go through this video was, why are we silent? Why does no one speak about this? And what's the hush hush about it? Because this is real pain. This is real hurt. This is real sorrow. And yet no one speaks about it. Chat in the comments, make it make sense. But then I realized something. Men, we do this thing to where we act like everything is okay. And we bottle things up. We put it off to the side of our psyche, never to deal with it again. And the reason that we do that is it's a survival mode. For those of you who may be ladies in the chat or women in the chat, that is just something you will never understand about being a man. And there will be some things that we don't understand that you guys go through as ladies. I think one thing that we go through as men that's incredibly difficult for women to understand is usually any sign of vulnerability, any sign of weakness, any sign of pain is always immediately met with that you're not strong enough. It's immediately met with that you are not capable, that you are weak. Think about this in the animal kingdom. When an animal gets hurt, it will do everything it possibly can to cover up its wounds so the other predators around it don't see it as weak to attack. Right? Dogs in the wild, like wolves and things of this nature. The reason why dogs eat vomit to this day is because vomit is seen as sickness. So they will literally eat their sickness so other predators won't smell it and won't attack them for seeing them as being sick. They will hide their wounds. They will bite and lick and do all these things to heal their wounds, just so the animals around them won't recognize their weaknesses. And men, we are the same way. We will do so many things to protect our heart, to protect our outer exterior, that when people around us don't see us as weak. And this is no different. So when we're internally having hurt and pain and sorrow, on the external, we're going to be stone cold. And women, you guys will get frustrated in the process, or wives, you will get frustrated in the process because you think we're not feeling anything. But really, it's a coping mechanism to the extreme because of the amount that we are feeling, that we feel like we have to counter what we are feeling on the inside. So I hope that was a gift to some of you wives out there who are maybe trying to get insight. What is my husband actually feeling? Right? What is my brother? What is my uncle actually feeling? If they are stone cold on the outside and say, no, everything's good, everything's fine, that should let you know, man, they are hurting on the inside. They are hurting. And some more thoughts that I had was, I started getting more sentimental of like, I will never know if my child is a boy or a girl. Like, I will never know if it was a boy or if it was a girl. And those mysteries of like, you're pregnant and now you're not. Was it a boy? Was it a girl? And you go down these endless possibilities of what ifs. And what if I did this differently? What if I intervened in a different way? Did I not pray enough? Like, you go through that in such a way that if you're not careful, it'll cripple you. Like, it'll cripple you extremely bad. And my advice to you is, don't be afraid to feel those emotions. Don't be afraid to lean into that. Just do everything you can to process it the best way that you can. Because the way that I grieve and the way that you grieve will be absolutely different. It will be 100% different. And that's okay. That's okay. So I won't go too much longer, guys. And maybe I'll do a part 2 to this video. If someone wants a part 2 to this video and you want more content, just drop a comment. And I will definitely make sure I do a part 2, because there's so many things that go into this. I could speak for years about this topic and the thoughts and all those things. But I just, again, want a resource for those dads out there, and maybe for those husbands, that when you go through this, it's absolutely devastating. It is absolutely horrendous. And I do not wish this upon my worst enemy. And another thing that kind of happens is I immediately just got empathy. And I immediately was like, man, how ignorant and how foolish am I to think that no one around me has gone through this, when in fact, like I said, those chances are 1 in 4. And man, even to this day, it still bothers me So if you're in a similar situation as me, again, I really hope you never have to watch this. But just know that you are not alone in it. And I will be praying for you. Whoever comes across this video, I'll be praying for you in your situations, because I'll give you a hint. At the end of it, I actually wouldn't take it back. The amount of growth that my wife and I have had, the amount of growth that my faith has endured through this, I actually wouldn't go back and change it, because there's a new closeness to my wife and that we share that is absolutely incredible. And we now, 3 years later, we actually were infertile. Again, I'll go touch on this a different time. After a year of trying, we then were infertile for 2.5 years. And then now we finally have a baby boy, and you can see the car seat in the back, and we finally got a baby boy. But man, it was not without a lot of pain. So my encouragement to you guys is just keep going, just keep pressing on. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.